Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be taking a deep dive into the fascinating world of Bob Camblin.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got excerpts from two different books about Camblin,
Okay.
which I think is really neat because we're going to get different perspectives on the same guy.
Yeah.
His artwork is really expensive. Like, it sells for a lot of money, but he actively tried to stay out of the art market.
Well, that's interesting.
It's a very strange juxtaposition.
It is. You know, that tension that you just described between wanting to just create and the commercial aspects of the art world, that's something that runs through his whole story. It's a struggle many creatives face, but Camblin seems to have taken it to another level.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Born in Oklahoma in 1928, he later studied at the Kansas City Art Institute and then received a Fulbright scholarship to Italy. I mean, that's a pretty good start for any artist.
Absolutely. That immersion in Italy, I mean, this is the 1950s, a period of huge artistic resurgence and change. To experience such a rich art history firsthand. I think that must have had a really profound influence on his artistic vision.
Yeah. Instead of kind of diving headfirst into that art scene, he chose a different path, teaching.
Yes, he did. He embarked on this really interesting teaching career, and he shared his knowledge at a lot of different institutions, places like Ringling, University of Illinois, Detroit, Utah, and then Rice University.
How do you think teaching might have influenced his own artwork?
Well, I think teaching forces an artist to really articulate their ideas in a way that resonates with others, and that can refine their own understanding of art. And it can push them in new and unexpected directions, I think.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. In 1976, he makes a pretty drastic decision, abandons academia, and he becomes this nomadic artist and supports his travels through sales and commissions. So what do you think that tells us about him, about his personality, his priorities?
That's a good question. I think that move speaks to a deep desire for autonomy, a willingness to sacrifice financial stability for the freedom to create on his own terms. It's almost as if he was rebelling against that conventional art world path.
Yeah, I think so. This rejection of the traditional art world seems to have been a driving force throughout his career. Let's get into his artistic evolution because it echoes this sentiment as well.
Okay.
He starts with abstract impressionism, but then goes in a completely different direction.
Yes, during the 1970s, he develops this signature style, the mouches volantes, which translates to flying flies in French.
Flying flies. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right.
What's the essence of this technique?
So imagine dots and dashes, like meticulously arranged, to create these optical illusions. And the viewer's perception plays a crucial role. It's almost like, you remember those magic eye posters?
Oh, yeah.
Where you have to kind of relax your gaze to see the hidden image. Well, Camblin was influenced by movements like Dadaism, surrealism, both known for really challenging traditional art norms.
So he's like intentionally blurring the lines between what's on the canvas and what the viewer perceives. It's almost like they're co-creating the artwork.
Exactly. Think about how we perceive shapes in clouds. It's a similar concept. The canvas acts as a primer, and the viewer becomes an active participant, their perception kind of shaping the final interpretation.
That's pretty brilliant, actually. He applies this technique across a pretty diverse range of works, doesn't he?
He does. You can see it in his Big Al series, where he explores the impact of technology on our lives. And then you have the really powerful Descent from the Cross, which showcases his range and how this technique could be applied to very powerful imagery.
Now we have to talk about his approach to collaboration.
Yes.
Because he uses the pseudonym Anonymous Artists when he works with Nancy Giordano Echegoyen, who later became his wife. Why do you think they chose to downplay their individual styles and work under this shared name?
I think it connects back to his aversion to the art market and its focus on the individual artist, the celebrity.
Right.
It's a powerful statement, to shift the focus away from ego to the creative energy itself, to the collaborative process.
It's almost as if he's intentionally rejecting the whole art star system. In fact, there's this quote from him. He says, "Intense bleak gray is the meeting point of science and magic."
Wow.
Help me understand that. It seems like a very contradictory statement.
It is a complex idea. It suggests that he was drawn to these liminal spaces where seemingly opposite forces converge. It's in those gray areas where things aren't so black and white that the most profound truths reside, I think.
And how does that tie into his views on what he called the art racket, the commercial side of the art world?
Well, it seems that for Camblin, the value of art was not measured by monetary worth or even critical acclaim. He saw the art racket as a distraction from the purity of artistic expression, almost like a necessary evil.
So he's walking this tightrope between needing the art world to survive financially, but simultaneously wanting to distance himself from it.
Yeah.
It's something that I think a lot of creative people can relate to.
Absolutely. It's the age-old tension between artistic integrity and the practical necessities of making a living.
Let's dive into some recurring themes and inspirations in his work. The Day of the Dead, the concept of the nidus appear quite often. What do you think he's exploring with those themes?
Well, it seems that he was fascinated by the interplay of life and death, the transient nature of our existence. And Vanitas art, with its symbols like skulls and decaying flowers, um, serves as a reminder of our mortality.
It's art as a meditation on the really big questions. I'm noticing a pattern here.
Yeah.
And it continues in his Las Meninas series, which references the famous Velázquez painting. And in these works, he's really playing with perception and hidden presences. He's inviting the viewer to actively search for clues and uncover these deeper layers of meaning.
Yeah. He's leaving these breadcrumbs, encouraging us to participate in the discovery process rather than just passively observe.
Exactly. And then we have the Metamorphosis series. And in the research, there's mention of Camblin grappling with overthinking, desiring simpler, more disciplined forms. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that he recognized that overanalyzing could hinder creativity.
Oh,
So he
interesting.
seems to be striving for this more intuitive approach,
Yeah.
allowing the art to kind of flow more naturally without getting bogged down in all that intellectualization.
It's the classic battle between head and heart, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's
something
all right.
we all deal with. Let's move on to hear from the man himself.
Okay.
I want to unpack some of his most compelling quotes. One that really struck me was, "Magic always made me curious about the seeker or the user. I stuck with common sense." What are your initial thoughts?
Well, it sounds to me like he was wary of easy answers and shortcuts.
Hmm.
That he was more interested in the process of exploration and understanding, even if it's messy and complex.
I think you're right. It aligns with this overall skepticism of dogma and his preference for uh, a more grounded, experiential approach to art and life. Okay. Here's another one. Thinking about something too much can lead to intellectual wariness, but not necessarily creativity. I love that quote.
That's a good one. It speaks to the need for balance.
Yeah.
Engaging our intellect, but not allowing it to paralyze us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to just let go and trust our instincts.
Absolutely. This one really struck me. Do what excites you as you search, or you'll impede the flow. Do not hold for the right or the wrong. What insights resonate with you from this quote?
Well, I think it reinforces his emphasis on intuition
Mm.
and trusting the creative process.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in self-judgment or the fear of making mistakes. Just dive in and let the work unfold organically.
Yeah, that's great advice for anyone, not just artists, right?
Yeah.
Embrace the journey, even the messy parts, and be open to those unexpected twists and turns and see where it leads you.
Well said. It's about finding that sweet spot between intention and surrender.
We've gone from Camblin's early influences to his groundbreaking techniques and collaborations. We even got a glimpse into his unique personality and artistic philosophy.
Yeah.
And it all circles back to this question: why would an artist who achieved so much recognition actively try to avoid the art market?
It almost seems like a contradiction.
It does. It's a paradox, and we'll continue to explore that as we go forward.
Okay.
So I'm ready to dive deeper.
All right, let's do it.
So we're back, and I'm fascinated by this tension we've been talking about. Camblin needs the art market to make a living, but he seems almost repulsed by its influence on creative expression.
Right. Yeah. It's a struggle for sure, but with Camblin, it feels like a wrestling match.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this is where his collaborations become even more intriguing, especially his use of that pseudonym Anonymous Artists with Nancy Giordano Echegoyen.
Yeah, that's right. It's like they're intentionally trying to shift the focus away from individual egos,
Mhm.
almost like a rebellion against that whole cult of the artist.
Exactly. They're challenging this whole idea of authorship and personal branding, which were and still are so central to the art market. This anonymity allowed them a certain freedom to experiment and play with different styles without being tied to a particular brand.
Yeah.
It all points back to Camblin's desire to break free from the constraints of the art world. And his signature style, the Musha Volantes, which we talked about earlier, is a prime example of that. You mentioned he drew inspiration from Dadaism and surrealism, movements that really shook things up in the art world.
Right. Yeah, Daddyism, well, that emerged after World War I. It was kind of a reaction to the horrors and absurdity of that conflict. It was very anti-establishment, often nonsensical,
Oh.
and aimed to shock and provoke. And it really challenged the very definition of art.
Oh, wow.
Surrealism, that came later, heavily influenced by psychoanalysis and the exploration of the unconscious mind. So think distorted imagery, dreamlike sequences, and a fascination with the irrational. So both movements challenged the status quo. They embraced experimentation, and that clearly resonated with Camblin.
So he's taken these influences, movements that question the very foundations of the art world, and moving them into his own unique style.
Yeah, and that style with its dots and dashes forming these mesmerizing optical illusions. It's not just about visual trickery. It's about engaging the viewer on a deeper level, making them an active participant in creation of meaning.
Right. You said it's like those magic eye posters, but instead of one hidden image, there could be multiple interpretations depending on the viewer.
Exactly. There's no single right way to see a Camblin. He's not dictating meaning. He's sparking a dialogue between the artwork and the viewer.
And it's this approach, this unique blend of technical skill, intellectual depth, and playful engagement that makes his work so compelling, even for those who might not fully grasp the art historical context. It's no wonder his work is so sought after, even though he seemed to do everything he could to avoid the spotlight.
Yeah, it's almost like he achieved success on his own terms.
Yeah.
A true maverick, always pushing boundaries in his life and in his art.
Okay, let's go back to some of those thought-provoking Camblin quotes. One that really stuck with me was, thinking about something too much can lead to intellectual wariness, but not necessarily creativity. What's your take on that?
Well, I think he's cautioning against overthinking, analysis paralysis. Sometimes to unlock creativity, we need to silence that inner critic and just let go, trust our instincts.
So it's not about abandoning intellect altogether. It's about finding a balance between intention and intuition.
Absolutely. It ties back to the Musha's Volantes technique. It's not about painstakingly planning every detail. It's about embracing that randomness, the happy accidents that can emerge when you surrender to the process.
It's a beautiful way to think about it, embracing the unexpected.
Yeah, and that's what makes Camblin's work so refreshing. It reminds us that art doesn't always have to be serious and self-important. It can be playful, thought-provoking, and deeply personal all at the same time.
Yeah. His legacy challenges us to rethink our own assumptions about art, about creativity, the role of the artist in society.
Yeah, he was a rebel with a cause, a true visionary who forged his own path and left behind a body of work that continues to intrigue and inspire. And while he may have actively tried to stay out of the spotlight, his influence on the art world is undeniable.
It makes me think about the lasting impact of Camblin's art. But before we dive into that, maybe we can kind of shift gears a bit and talk about the bigger picture. What questions does Camblin's story raise about how we engage with creativity in a world that often seems obsessed with commerce and celebrity?
That's a fantastic question, and it's one that deserves careful consideration. After all, Camblin's life and work stand as a compelling counterpoint to those very obsessions.
Yeah, I'm ready to unpack that. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the world of Bob Camblin. It's been quite a journey, tracing his path from those Oklahoma roots to his globe-trotting adventures, his groundbreaking techniques, and that kind of rebellious streak that ran through everything he did.
Yeah, he was truly one of a kind. An artist who managed to achieve this significant level of recognition while simultaneously resisting the very systems that often define artistic success.
It's a fascinating paradox, right? He needed the art market to survive, but he almost seemed to resent its influence on the creative process.
It's a struggle so many artists face, but Camblin really seemed to embody that tension in a way that few others have. He was constantly searching for this pure form of art making, one that transcended the commercial pressures and the pursuit of fame.
And that search led him to make some pretty unconventional choices, like working under the pseudonym Anonymous Artists and prioritizing those collaborative efforts over individual recognition.
Right, and those choices really speak volumes about his artistic philosophy. For Camblin, the creative process itself was paramount. More important than the individual ego, it was about the shared journey, the exploration of ideas, the pure joy of creation.
It's a perspective that feels incredibly relevant today, especially in a world that's so often fixated on personal branding and self-promotion.
It's a good reminder that art can be this powerful force for connection and collaboration, allowing us to kind of transcend those individual differences and tap into something much larger than ourselves.
I think that's one of the most significant takeaways from Camblin's story. He compels us to kind of reevaluate our own relationship with art.
Mhm.
Do we approach it with a genuine curiosity and a sense of wonder, or are we too focused on analyzing and dissecting it?
That's a crucial question. Camblin seemed to advocate for this more uh, intuitive and experiential approach to art, an approach that embraced multiple interpretations and personal connections. He wasn't interested in dictating meaning. He wanted to spark a dialogue and invite the viewer to become an active participant in the creative process.
It's like he's saying, don't just look at the art, feel it, experience it, let it speak to you on a deeper level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes his work so enduring. It's not about seeking the one right interpretation. It's about embarking on a journey of discovery
Yeah.
and allowing those personal connections to kind of emerge organically.
And those connections can be profoundly moving. Art has this unique power to move us, challenge our perspectives, and make us think and feel in ways that we might never have imagined.
Absolutely. It can serve as a catalyst for personal growth. A mirror reflecting our own humanity back to
Mhm.
us. And I believe that's what Camblin ultimately sought to achieve with his art,
Mhm.
to create a space for connection, contemplation, and a shared human experience.
It's a beautiful legacy to leave behind. He may have actively avoided the spotlight, but his impact on the art world and on those who encounter his work is undeniable.
And his story is an inspiration, reminding us that true artistic expression isn't about chasing trends or seeking external validation. It's about staying true to your own vision, even if it means going against the grain.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Bob Camblin, a true original, an artist who defied categorization and challenged us to rethink our own relationship with art.
And his story encourages us to embrace those unexpected juxtapositions and never shy away from the unknown.
So the next time you encounter a work of art, I encourage you to step back from the analysis for a moment and simply experience it. Let it wash over you, provoke you, inspire you. You might be surprised at the connections you make and the insights you uncover.
And who knows, you might even tap into your own inner rebel along the way.
That's a great thought. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bob Camblin. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating.